Now, he's always looked at the G20 as a platform, as basically a consortium of people who can make movable and implementable ideas.
The Prime Minister has taken the leadership for G20 in a manner that's inclusive of the global South. And I think the 3 points he has raised is largely focused on the global South, starting with the issue of terrorism, which has been plaguing countries like India. And we have recently seen that terrorism has been converted into an actual conflict between two nuclear armed nations. And obviously, state-sponsored terrorism is a large issue. And we have also seen as recently as last week where white-collar terrorism has been taking root in this country. And so has been the experience in lots of African countries. So terrorism is definitely a very key issue for the G20 and specifically the global South. Along with it, the narcotics trade is going hand in hand. The channels which fund the funding of terrorism is the same channels through which drugs are being distributed to the rest of the world, including fentanyl, which has been the key focus for the US government. And therefore, dismantling of the terrorist network goes hand in hand in dismantling the narcotics network. We have seen again and again, be it the Golden Triangle, be it the Pakistan-Afghan border, narcotics is being used in a big way to fund terror. And therefore, the very particular point of the Prime Minister that we need to focus on both terrorism and the drug terror nexus. In addition, for the world to grow, Africa needs to grow. And for Africa to grow, we need to have a significant amount of skills to be put into Africa, and which is where his second initiative of focusing on skill development in Africa, I think is a very visionary statement and a very statesmanly statement that he has put on the table. So clearly, the Prime Minister continues to focus on global South within G20. He was the one who brought the African Union under G20 and has been a very vocal supporter of global South within the G20.
Absolutely. You're quite right, sir. The developed countries are in fact doing and going about their own business. But Mr. Bhattacharya, it's important to understand that the G20 is a vehicle through which change can be driven. There is an impetus, a push towards inclusive economic growth, which the global South has been bereft of. And also, Mr. Bhattacharya, there is also this rage about harnessing critical minerals for inclusive growth and sustainable government and movement and development. Is that also something which is going to form the highlights of every G20 summit, or rather other forums such as the G20 for the next few years?
I think you've hit on a very critical issue. What is happening is the neo-colonialism is being played out again with a vengeance. The developed countries and the economies need access to the rare earth metals. They also need access to all other minerals, which is copper, uranium, and so on and so forth. And what we see is that bulk of it is coming from the global South, including Africa. And in spite of these global South providing bulk of the raw materials and minerals needed for the lifestyle that has been enjoyed by the more advanced economies, the per capita income, the lifestyle of those living in the global South are not at par. And therefore, the questions you asked are absolutely pertinent. So as the race for access to rare earth metals accelerates, we see more and more exploitation going up in places like Africa. If you look at Africa, it has roughly the same population now as India has, but its economy is only about 2/3 of India's economy. And if you compare Africa with other countries, obviously it does far more badly. Now within Africa, we have a few economies whose per capita income is much higher, such as Egypt and South Africa, and therefore there are many more countries and populations within Africa which are far worse off than even this average that we're talking about, because they are the ones who are pulling down the average. And hence all the statements of Prime Minister Modi at G20 becomes critical, that we need to have a more equitable future as we move forward. And if we do not have that equitable future in terms of healthcare, in terms of skills, in terms of peace and avoiding terrorism, because terrorism is also being used as a weapon to access these minerals. If you see within Africa what is happening, there are state and non-state terrorist groups which are fighting over access towards these minerals and mines and so on and so forth. And therefore, taking out and stamping out terrorism is an important part of equitable development. And unless we provide, as the Prime Minister had said, some healthcare access and skill development and stamping out terrorism, it'll be difficult for the global South and particularly Africa and even Latin America to start growing at a pace that they should be developing.
Mr. Bhattacharya, I also want to pick up your brain on the adoption of the G20 declaration and the Americans blocking it because of course, policy disagreements. What did you make of that?
It was quite unfortunate because till now we have been looking at America as the global leader. Clearly, with their step of, and it's a very retrograde step of blocking this declaration, they're basically standing down from their leadership position. And it is now for the rest of the world to stand in for that leadership. I think America has basically declared that they are no more the leaders of the world. And I think it's showing up in every sphere of global action, be it in terms of their own economy, be it in terms of their response, be it in terms of putting tariffs. They're behaving as if they are a developing economy because they are harking for tariffs to be increased, and now blocking the declaration in G20 in a very unstatesmanly manner. It does not show up well for America or their global leadership. So clearly we have now firmly moved into an era of multipolarity with the US stepping down from their leadership position.